came in August of 1986. I had my two small children with me, a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. And after I got here, one of the first things I attended was an orientation for graduate students, and it was one of those, see the person on your left, the person on your right, one person won't finish, blah, blah, blah. I didn't pay attention so much to that, but after that orientation was over, these two brothers came up and spoke to me and said, hey, we're thinking about starting an organization for African American engineering graduate students. Would you be interested? I'm like, well, yeah, I did NSBE as an undergraduate. That could be interesting. So I said, let me know when they start meeting. So I remember the first meeting, or we came and had meetings in Corey Hall, and we had to come up with a name, a mission, and bylaws, and all of those things. And one benefit of that is once we became sanctioned, we had a tiny bit of a budget so we could have refreshments at the meetings. We could get these awful pizzas that were cut into squares. But the main thing for me was, it meant I didn't have to cook on Beaches nights. But the organization was designed to be academic and social support for graduate students, for the minority graduate students in engineering. And also, we really did have a focus for wanting to increase the number of minority faculty members. And I think what we didn't realize, or a corollary event of the organization, was it allowed us the opportunity to develop our leadership skills. And it also allowed us to establish internal and external contacts and networking that served us throughout our careers. And we had things, we had potlucks, we also had meetings with Dean Peaster where we talked about we need more minority faculty members. We had symposiums, we interacted with NACB, which is another local professional engineering organization. And so being in BGES and being part of BGES, it had a great impact on all of the members. And I'm just going to close with some of the personal impacts that it had on me and my time while I was here at Berkeley. The first has to do with when I had my preliminary exam. And as a PhD student, that's one of the first make or break points in your PhD career. And it's an oral exam, 3 of your faculty members firing questions at you till they get tired. And I had studied for it. And then the day of the exam, I got on campus early. I was nervous, so I didn't eat lunch. I got to the exam room early, so I walked around the table in the conference room just out of nervous energy until I got dizzy. And then, I was nauseous, my stomach started grumbling. Then the professors walk in, and it's like, okay, let's get started. And I was just an absolute mess. I just mumbled, I didn't speak loud. This is back in the days of chalk and chalkboards. I had on black slacks and then wiped my hands on my slacks. It was an absolute mess. And back then, they don't call it failing. They just say, we'd like you to continue your exam. We're going to give you another chance to come back and answer more questions. So I was absolutely devastated. I'm like, I don't have a plan B. I've got to do this. And I realized I got all the questions right. My composure was just awful. So I called one of my BGES friends and said, listen, I need a babysitter. He thought for the kids. I'm like, no, not for the kids. I need a babysitter for me. I need someone to help me keep my head together, keep me in the game when I go back for my continuation exam. And Kevin Cornegay, I don't believe he's here, but he stepped up. He's like, okay, I've got you. We went out to lunch. He just helped me keep my nerves under control, stayed with me till the exam started, and passed that with flying colors, and everything else is history. So that's something that we just And the other thing is, lots of people have mentioned it, but also it did become family. I'm from Oklahoma. As a graduate student, it's not like you're rolling in the dough. I couldn't afford to go home for holidays. So for the 7 years I was here, my holidays were here. So it was either with faculty or with BGES, and that was my family. And that's something that, I'm hearing Dr. Fleming talk about not having that support system. I felt bad for her. I just could imagine how that isolation could feel. And it was so nice that we had BGES here and we had that critical mass and we were able to support each other. And then the one final personal impact of BGES was we interacted with NACD, which was the Northern California Black Professional Engineering Organization, and they used to have annual conferences and career fairs and things of that nature. They asked Regis, if we would be willing to support their annual conference by giving presentations and also just volunteering. If we volunteered, we'd get to go to their conference for free. So I'm like, free, I'll be there. So I volunteered at their conference, and while I was there, one of the people that I met was my husband, Takisa Anderson, and that's my final and best thing that I got out of being with Regis.